After a years-long battle with the Houston Police Department's legal team, we finally have access to those internal documents that Houston Police Department did not want you to see.
And these statements from commanders and lieutenants that paint a picture of who knew what and when about 250,000 cases the department did not investigate. ABC13's Liliana Pearson joins us now live here in studio with details.
Myra, Jonathan, well, you've seen me reporting on this for over a year now. Many people here at ABC13 have been working tirelessly behind the scenes to get documents, information, and answers into how a department people are meant to trust let so many victims down. Of course, that SL code, we know, it was invented in 2016 as a way to track incident reports that could not be investigated because there weren't enough investigators to go around. By 2024, the code was being used widely by the entire department to suspend things like a homicide, sexual assaults, and other violent crimes that had workable leads. Essentially, the code was a garbage can the department threw 250,000 incident reports into, despite real victims needing answers and help. And the documents we obtained, they confirmed that the code was known about and used prolifically started in 2016. One commander wrote that the code came up on multiple occasions after its creation, but there were no changes about how it was to be used. Another says that a specific executive assistant chief never told them to stop using the code, only for that executive assistant chief to say that they did, but they couldn't recall when. This is information that HPD did not want you to know. In fact, they fought to keep this information from you. To break down the fight to obtain these records, we now go to a conversation with our investigative producer, Sarah Rafiq.
Liliana, thank you. Sarah, obviously the implications of the code, the use of it, and what we've learned since then have major implications. I want to talk about the process. Walk us through the process when we first learned about this, the actions that you took.
Right, so this all came to light to the public last February, and so shortly after that, we made sure we wanted to request any kind of internal documents that we could to really get a sense of what was going on at HPD that the public may not have been aware of as they were continuing their investigation into how this all happened.
Right, and so you initially made that request. The AG ruled that they had to release the records. That's pretty standard practice, but what happened after that that became not so normal?
Yeah, so, you know, we send hundreds of requests as our job as journalists, and I've never had it in my 10 years where the agency asked the Attorney General to reconsider. So they pretty much were like, I know you want us to release these documents, but we really don't want to for XYZ reasons. Can you please allow us to not release them?
And is that, you said it's not only normal, is that legal for HPD to ask the AG just kind of in a letter to reconsider?
So the AG actually told us, or told HPD whenever they told them the second time around that they have to release the records, that they're prohibited from asking the Attorney General to reconsider. So, I mean, it's kind of against the law in the Texas Open Records Act for them to have even asked the AG to reconsider. Sure,
and I know in looking at the recap that you've given us and looking at the notes, we were potentially getting legal involved. You spoke with HPD's attorneys at the highest level saying, hey, what you're doing to ask the AG to reconsider, not only is that not legal, you've got to give us the records.
Exactly. So it just ended up having to put a little bit of pressure on them to make sure we got the records, because even after the Attorney General came around that second time saying you have to release them, they still kind of tried to drag their feet on it a little bit.
And again, this is more than a year here since those requests were made, or just about a year. Obviously, this was last February when all this came out. What does it say to you, the battle and the roadblocks that HPD put up, essentially not wanting to give the information that the public by law is entitled to?
Yeah, so we know there was an internal affairs investigation into the SL code, and it is pretty uncommon for us to be able to get the documents that we did, but the fact that they were trying so hard to release them to the point where they were asking the AG to reconsider and dragging it out a year when it should have really only been a couple-month process just shows, you know, how hard they didn't want this information to get out.
And so this is obviously something we've been getting into with our reporters. Our team has done a great job. What stands out to you ultimately here about a year later in the information that you got from the communications?
Yeah, so I know one of the biggest confusions right after all of this happened was kind of the timeline of everything, wanting to know when people knew about the SL code and when they were directed not to use it. And these documents kind of show this code was there everyone knew about it for years, but in terms of when they were told to stop, that's where everyone's stories, all the commanders' statements that we received kind of differ.
Sarah Rafiq, the heart and soul of our 13 Investigates team, gentle but fierce when it comes to getting this information. Sarah, great work as always. Thanks so much.
Thank you.